Welcome back to the LCS Dome presented by State Farm, where we're not far away from Game 1 of FlyQuest versus Cloud9. Now, while FlyQuest fought tooth and nail for today's match, Cloud9 got to sit back and absorb what they could from that series versus Evil Geniuses. So I want to know from Crumbs, if you were a C9 analyst, what would you be taking away from that series? Give me the quick VOD review.
All right, give you a quick little rundown. So watch all 5 games, and this is true for FlyQuest for most of the series or the season as well. So because they're going to be starting on red set against Cloud9, I think they will be banning Caitlyn. They never let anybody first pick Caitlyn. They only go for it themselves. They will also ban Olaf. Obviously, Blaber is amazing at it, and then the Kalista because it was banned against EG, and it also is something that they faced against C9 and had a really hard time with. On top of that, they always pick AD or support, or AD or jungle in the first rotation, and the support as well in the first 3. So they save solo lanes for the second wave of picks and bans, which just means for Cloud9, you should save your own solo lanes for the later rotations so as to not give away much of your composition. Now into the gameplay. Santorin's jungle path. We've known how efficient he has been all season long. Now, when he has solo on a carry, he will path to the top side. He starts bottom side and passes top side. When solo is not on a carry, when he is, say, on, like you see him here, he's on Renekton, starts blue side, will path top side. Here he's on Jace, starts red side, path to the top side. When solo's on the tank, he moves away from him. And lastly, this is something that I think Cloud9 can do to control PoE, since so much of FlyQuest revolves around him. He's really good at playing control mages and having the answer to control mages, as we saw against Evil Geniuses, where he had the Swain against Galio, the Kog'Maw against the Azir. And when he's faced with champions that aren't the standard control mages, he will be the one to revert to control mages himself. He'll play the Oriannas, the Syndra. So I think that for Cloud9 to have the better chance here, they should pick mid laners that are not standard control mages. That way you know exactly what you're getting out of PoE, and you can have Nisqy play more of his style, which is trying to help his team out, whether this means playing champions like Akali, LeBlanc, or just something that is unorthodox, will throw PoE a little bit off and back to his comfort zone. That's my take. It's not a lot, but I think it's a good place to start for this series.
Smarts.
Well,
Smarts.
Yeah, it's a little smarts over there. If you guys are the players, you feeling confident with that VOD review?
Absolutely not. I'm probably dead level 1 because my coach Crumbs didn't tell me where IgNar stands level 1 or if he's going over walls. And you know FlyQuest is going to have to pull out those creative level 1s in a best of 5 to get that momentum with Cloud9. So I'm upset that I'm dead level 1, and I'm going to blame my coach. I had nothing to do. Like, I was perfect. I was standing in the river. It's not my fault.
Yeah. You need to pay him more. That's the master class. This was only the intro level, level
there
class.
you go. There you go.
Oh, you need to pay more
buy
to
the full
Paywall.
buy the full
Info
course
is
probably.
behind the paywall here, probably.
Yeah, exactly. That's just the free trial. Your credit card will be charged for the remainder soon. All right, Commander Flowers and Kobe are going to spotlight the mid lane matchup. And before we go, Riv wanted to use, or rather to give us a brush up on FlyQuest starting mid laner in PowerOfEvil, oversimplified.
As FlyQuest aim for another finals berth, I want to give you a rundown of their German mastermind and his rise through the ranks in PowerOfEvil, oversimplified. After bouncing around on European amateur squads, PowerOfEvil blasted into prominence on Unicorns of Love, where the young mid laner would become known for 2 things: unconventional builds and winning versus well-known mid laners. PowerOfEvil would peak in Europe on Misfits, where the team would take Faker's SKT to a full 5-game series before coming up short in the 2017 Worlds quarterfinals. After that, Tristan made his way out west, where he'd join Optic and rock Smite in mid, but ultimately be unable to translate his carry firepower to playoff success. Counterlogic Gaming would unite PowerOfEvil with his long-lost twin, where he'd finally get a shot at an NA postseason and playing on the big stage. Not one to settle for third-place finishes, PowerOfEvil would move on to FlyQuest, where in the spring of 2020 he'd be reunited with IgNar, the support that helped push him to a Game 5 series versus SKT all those years ago. With the Dream Team clicking towards the end of the split, PowerOfEvil would make his first NA Finals before coming up short to a dominant Cloud9. Now, with the squad looking better than ever, it's time to see how much farther Evil can fly. And that's all you need to know in PowerOfEvil oversimplified.
Thank you, Riv, and welcome everyone, here to our second week of playoff action in summer 2020 for the LCS. I'm Captain Flowers. Today I will be joined by my main man that you see on my left, on your right, Mr. Sam Kobe Hartman Kinsler. How you doing, my friend?
So excited. We have the second place team versus the third place team from the regular season. Flowers, some heavy hitters going at it today.
I cannot wait for this matchup. My eyes are immediately drawn to the mid lane, where two players are tied for third all-pro mid laner. This has never happened before in the LCS. So seeing this head-to-head between Nisqy and PowerOfEvil, this is the deciding factor this series.
Yeah. And a lot of people are going to be looking towards the mid lane because these two define their teams so much. They did tie for third all-pro team, but they're such different styles. PowerOfEvil, super lane dominant, looking to scale up for later for a big AP threat, whereas Nisqy roams a lot for the rest of the team, giving up a bunch. He works with Blaber, goes for those skirmishes, and can roam for Cloud9 either to the top side or the bottom side. They've shown flexibility to win from either. Meanwhile, of course, PowerOfEvil, very resource heavy, does have Santorin visiting quite a lot, as well as roams from IgNar. And it's going to be up to him to try and pressure Nisqy in lane, try and pressure that duo so he can't get as much time to roam. Plus, I'm looking at the picks. He already pulled out the counter pick Swain into Galio. Galio, obviously one of the best champions for roaming around, for playing behind a jungler like Blaber. And already PowerOfEvil and FlyQuest showing that they do have some answers.
Yeah, and if you're looking at those answers from the side of Cloud9, it's about that mid-jungle duo. When Cloud9 was at the height of their success, when they were dominating in spring, when they had the first half of summer completely on lock, it was Nisqy and Blaber often working together to take over the game. And if Nisqy wants to be popping off here, I want to see Blaber in his back pocket helping him out the whole time.
Yeah, I doubt Blaber's going to get Olaf or anything like that champion because that was one of the main ones. And if we look at the record between these two teams in the last 7 games, Cloud9 have won every single one of those games. The players themselves talking a lot about this kind of budding rivalry that we have.
Well, I don't know how much of a rivalry you can call it when one side's just beating up the other dude over and over again, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, one after another. Cloud9 definitely been putting in work against FlyQuest here so far, but that's what we're looking at going into today's series. So now we're going to throw things back to the State Farm Analyst Desk.
Thank you, Colonel Flowers and Kobe. Let's take a look at this matchup as well, gents, because as they want to take a look at how the mid laners necessarily play out, we do know they are flanked by some of the best junglers in that role.
Yeah, Blaber versus Santorin is going to be a huge matchup. If you want to use old school terms, Santorin is a herbivore jungler, whereas Blaber is a carnivore, meaning Santorin's doing so much work with the utility of Trundle, Volibear, setting up his team very well, going for early ganks to allow PoE and the rest of his team to carry, whereas Blaber relies on his team to give him the resources because he wants to be the one to carry, whether it's playing the Olaf, playing Lee Sin, even Nidalee that he tried against Dignitas. Blaber is a resource-heavy jungler, and the big question is going to be how does Nisqy's changes in his champion pool affect Blaber? They were trying to spread away from those heavy utility mid laners to more control mages as they fit the meta, but because they are so tethered, Nisqy and Blaber go hand in hand, and the big question is, if Blaber plays herbivore junglers, can he keep up with Santorin, who has proven to be the best of the best at doing that in NA?
Now, both of these junglers are massive parts of their teams gaining advantages and ultimately snowballing to victory. But Mark, there's been a stat we've tracked essentially all split long for gold or for C9, and that would be their gold, how they get it, and when they do.
And also how it changes. This is the differentials in those windows from 10 to 15, from 15 to 20, 20 to 25. In the first half, it was unbelievable how quickly they could explode games, especially in the mid game. 20 to 25, they were annihilating people and ending the games, even when they weren't ahead. Back half of the split, totally dropped off. They're still pretty good about getting gold leads and kind of growing those between 10 to 15. But when it comes to those mid-game skirmishes where they were so far ahead of teams in the regular season first half, they fell apart. And the last team that they beat that was any good was actually FlyQuest a month ago. And so I am going to be watching C9's skirmishes much more in their mid-game or their early game. I still think that they're great laners and Blaber's a great jungler. But when all five start coming together for those Drake fights and those global plays where you're moving around the map, are they still out-executing their opponents? Because I haven't seen it in a long time.
5 minutes ahead of game time. Let's see what C9's coach Reaper discussed, the end of the championship squad split, and how they plan to bounce back.
I am so happy to be getting some words from the respected and the renowned Reaper ahead of this match. Now, first things first, though, last time we heard from you on broadcast was before your match against Team Liquid, where you said you're going to go for comfort picks, and then you ended up locking in a Sona Lux bot lane. Reaper, can I even trust what you're going to tell me in this interview?
I mean, interviews are using like that, you know? I'm using for fake informations and, you know, more straight way than like honest, you know? So, no, you definitely not trust me.
I mean, you definitely had us going, I must say. So this time around, a little bit in all seriousness, I want to get your take on how you've been spending the time since the regular season wrapped up. You've had some time to reset. So how have the second half struggles kind of informed the way that you've been preparing for playoffs, if at all?
I mean, it is pretty nice to having a second place to, you know, prepare much more time than the other teams. And also specifically with this patch, it's really good for us to like small things are, I guess, in a way buff for our team because we are used to playing like bot side a lot, and right after some sort of like Barros and Ezreal and Apelios, all those champions that got nerfed, we are kind of struggling after that. But right now we are, I can say, really good form. Then we are good to go, ready to crushing these playoffs.
Seem very aware of the advantages that Cloud9 is bringing to the table in that aspect. And I want to get your thoughts on FlyQuest as an opponent, because earlier on in week 1 of the split, Blaber was saying how FlyQuest is one of the easiest teams for you all to draft against because you know what to expect. But we have been seeing different picks from them so far in the playoffs. Is there anything that you learned from the match between FlyQuest and EG that has helped in your preparation for this one ahead?
No, not at all.
Nothing.
They are pretty much doing whatever makes sense to do during the game, like nothing special. Like for example, if we are playing against Golden Guardians or TSM or Team Liquid, I have some sort of strat against them and I was noting down. But this team is like kind of do whatever makes sense at the moment, you know? So nothing very special. And draft, also they are do some sort of like kind of FlyQuest style draft. So it's, I'd like to say, much easier to play against it than the other teams. So yeah, pretty much agree with the Blaber.
Well, even with that, it seems like you're all on the same page in how easily you're reading into FlyQuest. But if we're looking at the LCS All-Pro teams, for instance, the first ever tie actually happened between PowerOfEvil and Nisqy. What's your take on the mid lane matchup?
I don't know. Actually, this game is not gonna important about mid matchup. It's PowerOfEvil, he's gonna farming every single game, and Nisqy gonna trying to crushing the other lane. So it's nothing about mid. It's more likely if we can crushing other lanes or PoE can scaling up.
Mm-hmm. Even in the votes, but very different in play style for sure.
Yeah.
Reaper, thanks for stopping by. Always a pleasure to get to hear from you.
Thanks for having me as well.
Of course, anytime. And with that, let's send things back over to the State Farm Analyst Desk.
Thank you very much, Licorice. Great to hear from Reaper ahead of the matchup. But gents, with 1 minute to go, I want to see the predictions on the screen as Cloud9 has taken every single game they have played against FlyQuest this split. It does look like you all believe, though, that FlyQuest will pick up a victory. However, it won't be enough to take the series win, although, again, Crumb's thinking a little closer than the other two. But I'm going to go to you first, probably. Why 3-1?
So, I mean, I think Cloud9 has a really good matchup into FlyQuest. I think, FlyQuest not being able to control Nisqy, I think is a really high probability. I know, Coach Crumbs, that's your strategy, but I think it's going to be a lot harder done than said.
There it is. All right, and I know that all three of them predict FlyQuest, or predict rather Cloud9. FlyQuest Camp is quite confident themselves. That's going to do it for us here. Now let's send it over for our first Worlds qualifying match, Cloud9 versus FlyQuest. Cloud9 will be facing FlyQuest. It's a rematch of our spring finals.
FlyQuest is looking better than they ever have.
First blood is in 3 minutes. Swain is off to the races. Huge play by IgNar. Can they make it happen? It's stolen away by Santorin. FlyQuest have the soul.
Cloud9, they need to regain that confidence in that playstyle that allowed them to dominate the LCS.
And he's still going. He gets one, gets three! A triple kill out of Nisqy. Zven has come around for the flank. If they get back to 4, they're once again the best team in North America.
Fist in a webcam.
Okay.
That's how we make our synergy. Welcome everybody. It's time to get things underway. No, I didn't mean like on air, Kobe. I meant I was gonna fist bump you before the game started like we normally do with the casting desk, but we can't do no more.
Flowers goes 10 seconds before it comes to us. Flowers goes, put your fist up in front of the webcam so we can fist bump. I was like,
yeah,
okay.
like that's what we would normally do when the video's counting down and we're at the studio. I'd look at you and be like, boom. And then that's how we know if the synergy's ready to go. But actually what we did the whole time is we just made sure we got the bad synergy out of the way first. So now we're ready to jump into the game with you all and everything's going to be on point.
Hell yeah. Let's get into it. Who's qualifying for Worlds today, brother? Let's see. Cloud9 versus FlyQuest. Now, there's some things I want to lay down here because Champ Select for 10-16 is super exciting. And as I said in the caster check-in, PowerOfEvil already showing some counter picks that FlyQuest's been working on for the mid lane in the Swain. I also think that there's a good chance we see a Veigar popping up for either side in this matchup. He got a very minimal buff to MR on this patch, but they've been reaching a lot more towards sieging styles. With Caitlyn becoming so prevalent, a lot of teams have started to think about more ways of employing sieging strategies. Veigar's a really good one. Ziggs is another really good one. Caitlyn already on the ban list, though.
Yeah, Caitlyn has been taking over some bottom lanes in League of Legends, whether you're playing solo queue, whether you're playing professional play. Caitlyn is all over the place. Not surprised to see her banned out there. Graves, Trundle, Set, Olaf, Kalista. Lots of respect being paid to junglers of all shapes and sizes here in this first game Champion Select. Cloud9 are going to go ahead and start this draft off, grabbing themselves Ezreal first pick.
So Ezreal, in the face of the super high Ashe priority that we've seen for FlyQuest and WildTurtle being very good with the Ashe arrows, it's pretty interesting because this is, again, 10-16 where we have the nerf onto the Arcane Shift of Ezreal, and the cooldown was a pretty big increase, pretty big nerf to the mobility of Ezreal, hitting the strongest point of the champion where he's so mobile. You can use it for safety. You can also use it for offensive plays, hard carrying. That being said, Ezreal still spikes extremely well on the 2 items that everybody's used to, farming up the tier first in lane. But once you get your amount of transformation, everything smooths out.
Oh, we got some Lillia today. All right, Santorin breaking out one of the new champs. We recently got 2 new ones, of course, released within very close proximity of each other. The weebier of the 2 is not allowed in pro play and will not be in pro play throughout pretty much the rest of the year. Lillia, however, is enabled, and I'm excited to see what Santorin's able to do on this champion here today.
Yeah, Lillia, super high priority in LPL especially. Her clear speed is amazing. That is the one thing that I did really like about this champion immediately once it was released for the jungle. Clear speed is super good, and you're able to kite the camps very effectively. You don't take too much damage in your clear, so it's very fast and very healthy. That being said, I think I see a lot of Lillia's fail towards the mid game where they do need to be proactive, get into more skirmishes, make use of your strong ramping early clear into a mid game, and then building flat penetration plus Liandry's, and then mostly tank after that because she has really poor AP scalings. That being said, we're looking at the Yuumi combination with Ezreal in the bottom lane for Cloud9, and a Twisted Fate kind of covers the early weak lane phase that you're looking at when you're looking at Ezreal Yuumi. That's somewhere that FlyQuest would want to punish. But with Nisqy locking in that Twisted Fate in the first half of the picks here, they're kind of looking to get some support for the side lanes, exactly like we kind of set up for these 2 mid laners. Nisqy wants them to roam around, help out the other 2 sides, whereas PowerOfEvil we expect to be more of a farmer, more of a carry, and so do Cloud9, banning out the Orianna. Maybe they follow it up with a Corki or Azir.
Yup, targeting that mid lane pool, setting Nisqy up for success and trying to limit whatever they can from PowerOfEvil there. Jace and Gangplank banned out by FlyQuest, trying to make sure the top lane matchup is as survivable as possible here for Solo, who will be piloting Shen into this first game.
And honestly, I do really think Shen topside blind has not been punished to any significant extent in North America. So I would slam it down as a pick blind until a team really is able to punish it. Because Shen Stand United is going to have a bigger impact on that bottom lane that they're looking at to cover with Twisted Fate than the Twisted Fate coming in. Because Turtle can definitely take cleanse since he's facing Ezreal Yuumi, and the only thing he would really have to worry about would be a Twisted Fate gold card coming in.
Well, it looks like the counter pick here, my friend, is the Vlad into the Shen there in top lane, and also Nocturne for Blaber. TF Nocturne. Man, we could not have set ourselves up any better for talking about how Cloud9 wants to win games with Nisqy and Blaber working together. This is the Goon Squad composition. Wherever you are, these two are going to show up, they're going to beat you up, they're going to take your lunch money and disappear as fast as they showed up to the scene to begin with. These two champions can really take over the game.
And there's the scaling power farmer for PowerOfEvil that we also expect, the Azir late game powerhouse. It's really interesting, though, because Cloud9's composition, yes, they do want to take your lunch money with the Nocturne and the Twisted Fate, but then they're going to give that money kind of handed off from the earlier game-oriented champions to the Ezreal to have that double item power spike with a Yuumi strapped on him. And then the Vladimir counterpick into Shen is a very old counterpick. It has always been about scaling outscaling the Shen in the side lane and having a super free lane for the early stages. Because Shen doesn't really put the pressure on Vladimir that a lot of other champions can put on Vladimir, and then you get this big, massive AoE magic damage team fighter in Vlad that is very effective at diving some of the carries that are prevalent in the meta right now, such as Ashe. So towards the end of the draft, Reaper and Cloud9 have kind of revealed why they didn't have the focus on that low mobility carry. They did have this kind of in mind.
Yeah, and with Twisted Fate, Nocturne, and Vladimir all just being able to show up and dive right into the fight, Ezreal and Yuumi are the perfect pair to try to keep themselves safe on the periphery of the fight, get away from anybody going after them. The mobility and healing and kiting power of those two champions put together should hopefully be able to get Cloud9 away from those situations that they don't want to find themselves in. But, man, you said it. Shen has been popping off so much in LCS. He doesn't seem like he's getting appropriately countered. Is Vlad the secret sauce to making sure that you can't just blind Shen? That will be interesting to see here with Licorice going up against Solo.
Yeah, I mean, the Vladimir definitely scales up into such a scary team fighter, as well as being super powerful in the split push. It makes sure that Shen has to worry about magic damage threat if he's going to match the split push, as well as some armor for the team fights if they're going to try and make that use.
Yeah, Shen is the only real tank on the FlyQuest side, although you were talking about how Lillia likes to go for, Runic Echoes, Leandries, and then tank from there. That's still going to leave you pretty squishy earlier on in the game until you're able to get some of those tank items online. Puts you in more of a bruiser state instead of a pure giant meatball tank. So if this team falls behind, they're quickly going to find themselves just evaporating under the damage of Cloud9, who, remember, for anybody who might have missed when Kobe said it earlier, Cloud9 in 2020 is 7-0 against FlyQuest. They're not exactly having a close record right about now. But Champ Select is complete and the players loading onto the Rift. It's time for Game 1 of FlyQuest versus C9. Ladies and gentlemen, we are on to Summoner's Rift for the first time today in this best of 5 between Cloud9 and FlyQuest. In case you missed the memo, with the current playoffs format and way that teams are being sent to Worlds, if you win this best of 5 today, you are guaranteed going to Worlds. There is a lot on the line here in this one.
So much. And it's really interesting, too, with the history that these two teams now have. Both players on both sides have come out talking about how difficult it has been. Well, let's take a look at the level 1 versus FlyQuest. Try and collapse on Blaber.
Oh, Blaber saving the skill point early on to make sure that in case he got into trouble, he would be able to use the spell shield, and that saves him from having to use his flash to get away from FlyQuest there. IgNar also using the flash on the Thresh, so it's Cloud9 who comes out on top in that level 1.
Maybe the bottom lane will be a little bit less aggressive than we would think. Ezreal, Yuumi, especially in the early stages. Actually, let's see if they're going to go for a delayed invade here. They do have a sweeper on IgNar, but since he's so far back, they're not going to get any extra value out of it and start up on the Raptor counter jungle.
We've got a Raptor battle here at level 1. Blaber down to 200 HP using the smite. Now has to flash away. Blaber, what are we even fighting for those 4 man? It's chickens. FlyQuest just walks in. They grab themselves a first blood, and now they're going to take the red buff too.
What the heck, Flowers? Well, I guess the preparation here for FlyQuest coming out looking to attack the biggest point of Cloud9 that has been their downfall in the past. That has historically led to Cloud9 winning all of those 7 games versus FlyQuest themselves. They attack the jungle right off the bat, invade on Blaber. Santorin here on the Lillia, able to make use of the AoE, but Blaber, sticking in there, trying to fight for the big chicken. He won the battle, but he lost the war, and Santorin's not done.
They are not stopping anytime soon. Santorin leading the charge. He hits him with the big old W from the Lillia. That's the 2nd kill of the game here for FlyQuest. 2 deaths now on to Blaber. This is a tragedy of a start for the Cloud9 jungler.
Honestly, Flowers, I feel like we're seeing one of these kind of redemption arcs. Cloud9 have bullied FlyQuest all year long, and they've had enough. They're rising up here. Santorin invades WildTurtle and IgNar, as you can see on screen. And Blaber wanted to go for the Smite Steal on the chicken, and because he thought, okay, yeah, Zven is roaming up here with Vulcan on him, but just a clean sweep here for FlyQuest. And then after the invade, Santorin not giving up on it, he calls the level 2 Azir to come help him. And as much as we're talking up in the past, Nisqy has roamed so much for the team, and that has been the big difference maker. This time around, PowerOfEvil going with Santorin to make sure that Santorin can clean up the 2nd kill onto Blaber, and counter jungling his blue buff away as well, is going to set themselves up with a huge early game.
Yeah, Santorin with double the farm of his opponent, which, I mean, isn't... I made that purposely sound more impressive than it is. It's 18-9, so it's like 2 camps worth of jungle difference there. But that's still a very, very promising start for the side of FlyQuest. First Santorin on this new champion. This is actually my first game ever casting Lillia. I have never done a Lillia game up until this point. And this champion is actually a prime example. I've had people ask me before, Kobe, they say, hey, as a commentator for LCS, do you have to know the names of every ability in the game? Or can you call them like, Lillia W or Lillia E? I looked up the ability names of this champion, and her W's name is Watch Out Eep.
Yeah,
I
it's
am
a two-parter.
I am not calling it that. I am calling it Lillia W. Because if I have to yell Eep on the LCS, I don't think I'll ever recover from it.
Fair enough. You don't have to do that. I won't call you on it.
All right, I appreciate you being on my side.
One big thing about it, no matter what you're going to call it, is the sweet spot damage, which we saw him get, out of the vision advantage that they had. IgNar being on screen, though, let's get into some of the table setting that we wanted to get in for this matchup before we had so much great early action because of the preparation that FlyQuest did coming into it. So much focus on the jungle and mid duo because that has determined a lot of the previous games. But these 2 supports are actually the 2 supports with some of the most different stats. IgNar roams the most out of all supports from the LCS, and Vulcan roams the least. He has the most time spent pre-15 minutes with his AD carry with Zven. That's not going to change at all with Yuumi. That time spent with your AD carry just goes through the roof when you're Yuumi. And we already saw here IgNar getting off a roam towards mid. So FlyQuest showing to be very flexible between their lanes already. And I think fluid lanes versus Cloud9 is very important. When you can take and transfer some of your aggression and your momentum to help out the rest of your teammates.
Right, especially when you look at what made Cloud9 so successful, particularly back in spring and in the first half of summer when there was just nobody in the same ballpark as them. What made them so impressive was how they worked as a team, how everybody was always just working together and making these plays that no other team in North America would. It was one giant brain all playing the same 5 champions, it felt like. So these guys knowing how to work together like that just gave them that huge edge. And FlyQuest being able to respond and play as a team and move as a unit and have that fluidity you're talking about shows great signs of promise for them being able to match C9 in a best of 5. Because, as we've already said, the last time they met C9 in a best of 5, it was a 3-0 for the Spring Split Championship.
And it very much is a domino effect. You know, starting with the level win invade, the bottom lane for FlyQuest, supporting Santorin in his efforts at the chickens. Yes, it turned out even better than they had hoped because Blaber was pretty greedy and went for the chicken steal and died even after flashing out. So that's the 100% best possible scenario. But now you keep pushing it forward. Because it opens up the rest of the members to roam. You see IgNar going mid to help out PowerOfEvil after he helped out Santorin, but now there's a level 6 Shen, stand united at the ready. And again, this Vladimir matchup into Shen is more about the later stages early on. Vladimir with the longer cooldown on Q, you can't punish the Shen or deal significant real damage at all. And it is about the later stages. Early on, Shen stand united could be a big determining factor, especially towards bottom side.
Okay, Lillia's showing up down here. So is Azir. Nice job there on the ultimate. As Zven is towered over by 4 people on FlyQuest. They sent the whole crew down to bottom lane.
PowerOfEvil on the Azir. Once again, pushes up. When was the last time you saw Azir get off 2 meaningful roams before Twisted Fate got off anything cross-map, Captain Flowers? PowerOfEvil goes for the secondary invade with Santorin, and now with the bottom lane play, it is actually the Twisted Fate here trying to take down tower plates, trying to punish the Azir for him roaming. Cloud9 need to make use of their globals now. They need to make use of them quickly to try and stop this snowball that FlyQuest have created. 1 turret plate has gone over for Nisqy, trying to push in after PowerOfEvil's roams.
Well, Blaber only just recently hit level 6. Santorin actually hit 6 before Blaber hit 5 because of the early advantages in the jungle. So now with that Nocturne ult ready to go, we'll see if Blaber can manage to get online, get himself on the scoreboard somewhere. Usually when you look at a Nocturne game, you look at how successful is the first ult or two. Because the cooldown is so long, Nocturne players have to make sure they're seeing value from those ultimate usages, especially in a game where you're already behind like Blaber is. These ults need to make money for Cloud9.
All right. Thankfully for Cloud9, though, we can further explain some of the reasons why you double up on globals. It's not just, oh, haha, yeah, we have 2 globals, you only have 1. But the reason that you layer Nocturne on other global sources when you're facing, things like Shen, is that when Nocturne turns on the Paranoia and the map goes dark for the Shen, then the Shen, unless he had pre-teleported, pre-stand united, won't be able to answer as quickly. And you get to basically further enhance your Twisted Fate global by kind of cutting off the resources for your opponents and the reinforcements for your opponents. So you generally do want to have a power play where you use both at the same time.
FlyQuest contesting this Rift Herald, stealing it away. Blaber tries to escape, but here comes Lillia with the sleep. Over the wall, Cloud9's jungler remains alive, but no longer Kobe. It's PowerOfEvil grabbing himself his first kill of the game, getting FlyQuest their number 4. IgNar goes for the flash into the death sentence, but will not find it onto Nisqy. I like the attempt, but man, FlyQuest is just doing everything in the jungle this game. You saw Cloud9 try to go for the Herald. They lose that as well. Santorin's just farming up 2 camps at once because Lillia can do that. Easy peasy, 1, 2, 3.
And the fact that FlyQuest also, get the last hit on this Rift Trailed steal and Santorin's able to pick it up, just further snowballs it. Here goes Twisted Fate.
Lillia could be in a little bit of trouble, but Santorin is immediately turning things right back around onto Nisqy. Santorin down to 300 HP. Remember, Blaber has no ulti for this. He's going to be taken very, very low, and there go the soldiers. There's a 1-for-1. IgNar's still here in the fight. That's going to skew it in favor of FlyQuest here yet again. This Azir is 3-0-2 at 11 minutes.
Because FlyQuest used a defensive Nocturne ultimate trying to run away from their Rift Herald that they started up. They then only had the single global there, the Twisted Fate, to go in, and Nisqy does answer. Shen, Stand United, gets forced out by his Twisted Fate ultimate, but once they force, the discrepancy in support roams that we were talking about finally does come in as well. So Stand United protects Santorin initially from Nisqy. Good dodge there from Nisqy to get away from the taunt and the watch out Eep combination from Santorin on the big burst damage. But since Blaber commits to try and get that kill for them, PowerOfEvil sweeps him right up on the Azir. And support roam difference here because one support is playing Yuumi and permanently attached there down to the Ezreal on the bottom side. IgNar got off another timing. Swifty boots rush for him. This has been something that has emerged since that last nerf to mobility boots, since they got an increase in the cost of them. I actually really enjoy buying Swifty boots because you get to keep that movement speed in combat, and a lot of supports have kind of given up on the mobility boot dream with it being more expensive, although you get definitely less movement speed out of combat.
Well, the second Drake of the game has gone over to FlyQuest. They're still commanding themselves a 2,000 gold lead here at 12 minutes. If they keep controlling the game like this, they could get that Cloud Soul nice and early. Cloud Soul is one of those that is more useful on some champions than others. It's kind of the most situational of the souls, at least from what I've surmised from everybody else's opinions. Lillia, though, is a champion that could make a lot of use of that. She loves just being able to run around in a circle, go faster than a bat out of hell. And honestly, having a Cloud Soul working there for her will just help enable her to kite around these fights and just run around and stack up those spells over and over and over again. Yeah. See continued control over the neutral territory here in the river.
It's also pretty comical when you see things like, Azir Shurima shuffles, and then PowerOfEvil has got this big boost of move speed right after he goes in for the shuffle, and you get the little bird walk around in the fight. But honestly, FlyQuest should be able to continue snowballing really easily if you just burn down the first couple turret plates here. Everybody trying to power through number 3, but since there's so many members grouped up, it gets a lot of extra armor and magic resistance. Rift Trail cut right through it, and they finish off the last one. No problem.
They take it down. PowerOfEvil immediately summons up a replacement turret under FlyQuest colors, and Shelly will even get off the second charge onto the tier 2 mid lane turret, taking over half the HP off of that one too. Cloud9 in a real rough spot. Solo going for the taunt onto Licorice, gets him underneath the turret, takes 75% of his health there.
Yeah, pretty good use of that, but fake Nocturne.
Nice dog pile coming in from Cloud9 to make it so Solo ends up getting punished underneath the turret. He's going to lose out on a couple waves of minions here, and with turret plating now falling, Cloud9 can easily respond, make it 1-for-1 in that turret count.
Those are the types of plays that you're looking for with Nocturne Twisted Fate combination. They do go right and attack the Shen itself, taking down that top tower and getting some gold back for themselves. They need to bridge this gap while Zven here on Ezreal is still trying to transform into Muramana and work his way towards his Sheen item, which looks like it's going to be the Trinity Force. Higher damage, doesn't need as much the extra armor. And honestly, I do like Iceborne's kiting versus Lillia, but since there is a lot of magic damage on FlyQuest, you're not getting as much value out of the armor, and Trinity Force definitely is more damage, significant damage, and it's going to be a lot on him and Licorice towards the later stages, trying to do a lot of the carrying for Cloud9.
And talking about itemization, since we're on the subject already, I do want to point out PowerOfEvil with a very early QSS. He's making sure to itemize into this safety with his lead, make it so they don't lose a team fight off of him just getting gold carded and collapsed on and blown up. As Nisqy setting up the CC onto Solo here in the bottom lane, Blaber's trying to follow up on this one, but Solo manages to get enough distance in time and walk away.
And on the top side, meanwhile, with their strong side of the map here, FlyQuest will answer and get that top side turret back for themselves, keeping their gold lead. Now with a minute and 30 seconds left on the Dragon timer, they have plenty of time to transition their vision back over to the bottom half of the map, so they continue Dragon stacking towards that Cloud Soul. As you said, it's not the most powerful Cloud Soul, but still does have its use cases here, as Shen and Azir can definitely both use it when they ult go.
Lillia working towards that Liandry's too. You can see about halfway done here with haunting guys in the inventory. So Santorin will continue to be a problem here on this champion, picking up now the second Rift Herald of the game for FlyQuest. They don't even have to steal it from Cloud9 this time. Easy stuff here in the top half of the river with that collected. 45 seconds until the Drake spawns. When the Drake's about to spawn and you've got Rift Herald in your pocket, you can use that Rift Herald as a distraction if you want to afford yourself more Drake control. And remember that with those first two already under their possession, it means FlyQuest can put themselves at the sole point here with just one more pickup, forcing Cloud9 to answer every Drake after the fact or just give away that soul.
And if you look at the setup for it, it should be kind of easy for FlyQuest since they've taken down the mid turret. PowerOfEvil, 30 seconds ahead of time, pushes that minion wave. He has teleport ready, so as IgNar and Santorin move over to get their control wards down in preparation for the arrival of the dragon, he gets off his base, teleports right back with the extra mask here in inventory, trying to keep with maximum power so that there's no possible way for Cloud9 to fight them on this. And honestly, Cloud9 still have a lot of timers to wait on. They're waiting on Trinity Force completion for Ezreal. He finally now does get his Muramana transformation, but they would not want to fight third dragon here. They kind of have to hold off until it's actually soul fight, or even give up the soul in favor of something like Baron control, because they simply don't have the spikes to actually fight off FlyQuest at the moment.
Yep, third Drake secured for free by the side of FlyQuest. Turtle and IgNar rotating up there just to make sure Santorin didn't run into any trouble. Solo will be grabbing his own red buff. Santorin on Lillia doesn't really need it that much. Licorice will move over to contest this. The level 12 Vlad against the level 11 Shen. Vlad's feeling pretty all right in that matchup. We'll use the transfusion to make sure he gets the last hit and walks away with the red buff there from the enemy jungle.
Yeah, now is the stage where Vladimir really starts ramping into becoming a problem. So if we continue to watch Licorice's side lane play, he actually does have a pretty big advantage since he's got the favorable matchup here with the scaled Vladimir. Now that he's got a bunch of levels in the champion, but also with the Nocturne Twisted Fate obviously on top of it. Cloud9 are well situated to attack the split push from FlyQuest if they do try and answer. So it's been a really good opening for FlyQuest. Now it's going to be interesting trying to keep track of, can they actually deal with Cloud9's mid-game map control, as Ezreal here, I believe if he channels the recall, then that means he has enough money for his Trinity Force. Cancels it here, so maybe he's looking to farm up a little bit more for his last opponent.
Yep, items are coming online across the board. You can see Titanic Hydra just was completed there for Solo. Liandry's Torment now completed for Santorin's Lillia as well. 2 items on Turtle's Ashe. Has both the Hurricane and the Blade of the Ruined King ready to go, so a lot of teamfight DPS potential there on the FlyQuest 80 carry. Oh no, Blaber. Is this going to be number 5? Clearing out the ward. Throws the Duskbringer. Oh no, the chain CC is there. He goes into the stopwatch trying to stay alive. Flash away into a defensive paranoia. Licorice looking to turn things around. They've got the kill onto Santorin here to start things off. Licorice getting himself away. Yuumi ult going to keep FlyQuest at bay, but the Sand Soldiers will continue seeking more damage. Cloud9 turn this into a good play for themselves. It's FlyQuest who bite off more than they can chew, and Santorin will pay the price.
Yeah, the Yuumi and the Vladimir. Guess what, Flowers? I'm not seeing any executioners or healing cutting yet on the side of FlyQuest. That is a mandate here. You pass 20 minutes and you don't have healing reduction versus the team with Yuumi and Vladimir. That's something that you're going to need to correct very quickly, whether it is Morellonomicon or the Executioner's Calling. Somebody needs to get something quick, and 6 Executioner's Calling is a lot quicker that would definitely be the advice. So it's going to be on WildTurtle to pick that up for FlyQuest if they want to be able to secure some of those kills versus these champions that do have so much healing in their kits. In the meantime, now Trinity Force hit for Ezreal. So Zven is at the Muramana Trinity Force spike. They've got Lichbane already here on Nisqy for his split pushing, and they can continue to try and use the threat of Nocturne Paranoia in their attempts to split the map. Vladimir will now take over versus Shen in the side lanes. He can just continue AoE push, spam out his abilities. And once he builds up through Leandries too, it just becomes so difficult for the Shen. Plus, as we already saw, great team fight presence as well.
Yeah, Shen's got a hoodie in terms of magic resistance. That's not going to do a lot against a Vladimir.
If I can't see the Vladimir, then he can't do it.
It's not the best situation, but as time marches forward, we will see PowerOfEvil manage to use that second Rift Herald there to help him take down the tier 2 turret in the top lane. It is a 4 turrets to 1 game here for FlyQuest, who have honestly just been racking up the objectives constantly in this first match, and it's under 1 minute until that Drake spawns. This is Cloud's soul if FlyQuest get it.
And just, we have a few seconds now to look back at how they got here. It was all about FlyQuest's preparation coming into this map. You know, coming out with the level 1 delayed invade, getting the early kill onto Blaber, and then Santorin recognizing and calling over PowerOfEvil to keep up that invade. And the mobility here for the team, for FlyQuest, that's what caused them to rack up this immense dragon control that's setting themselves up for the very early soul here. Only 22 minutes in. They've got full vision control set up over the area, so trying to force Cloud9 to come to them and not allowing Cloud9 to use some of their greatest strengths with this composition.
Interesting second item purchase here from Blaber. Goes for the Guardian Angel. First item after Warrior. Not the most common thing to see. Usually Guardian Angel's a third item at the earliest type of purchase, but Blaber, recognizing that FlyQuest is really trying to focus him pretty hard this game, also wants to be able to jump in there with the Paranoia and not just immediately get killed. Speaking of which, the ulti is cast. Redemption coming down now. Cloud9 going in. Blaber looking to start things off. PowerOfEvil getting himself away. Volley going to be fired off. Blaber's already into the grave. Licorice is down. It's a 1-for-1 trade as Blaber respawns, only to find himself right back in the dirt. Solo goes for the taunt flash, and he will find his mark. Zven tries to get away, but PowerOfEvil's got a double kill. Ezreal's heading for the hills, but they're the wrong hills. He's running back towards the base of FlyQuest. Solo continues the chase. PowerOfEvil and WildTurtle following up behind. But Zven has been able to kite away from this successfully so far. He goes up the wall. He tries to make the Chad play, but it's just a bad play. And FlyQuest will find themselves an ace and a Cloud Soul.
Cloud Soul Plus, that should be a Baron for them, Captain Flowers, because they win the entire fight. That is 5 members down for Cloud9. Despite buying the Guardian Angel for the next fight, power for the soul fight there for Blaber, Cloud9 moves out, diving into FlyQuest. Turtle had picked up the Executioner's Calling. He annihilated Licorice in the attempted dive there, and once they take out the heart of the team fight, no Vladimir, they're able to chase everyone down. Even Ezreal Yuumi unable to escape off the backside. All right, so looking at it again, the dive in, Twisted Fate ultimate use, Vladimir teleport for the extra speed, attempting on the flank, and they go in at the same time. You see the pre-redemption, just to make sure they get a little bit of the extra healing. Vladimir goes in, pool is used. As soon as he comes out of pool, look at Turtle, boom, waits for him to stop, hits him with the arrow, and they just take down Licorice very, very quickly. Santorin as well, being able to escape out the back there, not giving up that extra kill, is huge because they don't get any Triumph Fields. Nobody gets anything off of that side for Cloud9, allowing PowerOfEvil to go right back in, sweeps him through with the Azir, and then, as you know, chasing him onto the other side of the map. Zven, nowhere really to go. He decides to take his shot. He saw the angle, went for the attempted kill there onto PowerOfEvil, went for the snipe, but Mystic Shot goes wide, and Azir lives another day.
And now, man, now FlyQuest is all wearing purple. This team is pushing down the mid lane. They're ready to go. You can see the damage chart in the last team fight. Ezreal's looking pretty good. Vlad did okay, but not a lot of damage coming out from the rest of the squad, and it was FlyQuest coming out on top. They've now taken down all 6 turrets outside of the Cloud9 base. It's time to pressure onto the inhib turret lines themselves. This is where a lot of teams do find themselves sort of hitting a wall. Hard to push through that when your opponents are able to defend it very well. You can see Cloud9 mounting that defense here in the bottom lane. But FlyQuest will apply pressure to 2 different lanes at once. They have the Azir turret to fall back to here, raised on the corpse of the tier 2 turret in mid. Still another minute remaining on your Red Bull Baron buff for FlyQuest to try to push with. Doesn't look like they're going to be able to crack anything with it just yet.
Yeah, I mean, that fight may have been at the site of the Dragon Soul, but the Dragon Soul is actually the least of the rewards that FlyQuest get for it. The biggest rewards are all the gold for the 5 kills they got and the Baron that they got afterwards. Here's the attempt from Cloud9.
Blaber's going in after PowerOfEvil, but the Stand United will show up to make sure that he's kept alive. Yuumi ulti also goes through. Licorice going in now, dropping down that ulti, but PowerOfEvil is going to be pulled to safety, barely going to be kept alive. Turtle goes on a rampage, and Blaber goes right back in the fountain yet again, like it or not. Santorin making sure that he's in the middle of these fights here on the Lillia, stirring up all kinds of trouble with those blooming blows. That one is a fun name to say. I do enjoy that. But man, what's not fun right now is Cloud9's state on the map. They have lost 2 inhibitor turrets. Inhibitors are now vulnerable with FlyQuest pushing up. Things are going from bad to worse, my friend.
Yeah, Santorin making a really good case for himself here. I know there's so much discussion about first team all-pro jungler from the regular split. And this time around, you know, number 2 versus number 1 with such a dominating team performance here, looking very good. Just the coordination that FlyQuest have shown in this series, you know, shows how much work they put into trying to face Cloud9, because again, we keep on stating the history between these 2 teams this year has been overwhelmingly on the side of Cloud9, even from the mouths of the players themselves. After their last series, Solo said he thought that Cloud9 were the best team in the LCS. So clearly, they put in the extra work to try and attack, you know, one of their biggest downfalls.
Well, the scoreboard just lit up all over with FlyQuest itemization completions coming in for pretty much everyone.
It's a
and
shopping
we're not
spree.
talking small stuff, my friend. We're talking Rabadon's Death Cap for the Azir, Death's Dance on the Ashe, Zhonya's Hourglass for the Lillia. Everybody's completing these big ticket items on the FlyQuest side. They're up 8,000 gold. Azir now has Liandry's, Rabadon's, and Nashor's Tooth. He can eviscerate any health bar that comes near him from the Cloud9 side. Cloud9 has no true tank on their roster. They've got a Vlad who can buy himself time by going into a pool. They've got a Nocturne who has a GA, I guess. But there's nobody on this team who survives standing in those Sand Soldiers and eating the auto attacks from Turtle at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, FlyQuest just with the overwhelming item advantage due to the giant gold lead they have. And if you look at Turtle's build, even the Ashe, one of the few points on the team that Cloud9 would try and dive and try and attack. He's got the Death Dance in addition, you know, to all of the healing that he's going to get just from standing and autoing with Bork, Death Dance, and the Hurricane. Basically is trying to lifesteal tank with the extra safety of, you know, shields from Shen and Thresh. Cloud9, they've got to, you know, pick their moment very wisely here as PowerOfEvil, while he's on the front, he does have that QSS that you mentioned. Arrow does land.
Paranoia used defensively to make sure FlyQuest don't follow up on that potential pick. And now the fight's breaking out. It's Blaber looking to go for PowerOfEvil here yet again. But Solo is right there protecting his ally as Turtle's able to deal with Licorice. The fight has split into 2 halves. FlyQuest have managed to kill off the enemy top laner, and PowerOfEvil with 3 auto attacks kills Blaber yet again. IgNar showing up with the shields to keep his mid laner alive. Try as they might, Cloud9 will never kill PowerOfEvil, and FlyQuest will run down the remaining players on the Cloud9 side. They'll smack the Ezreal, they'll bop that loop pinata Yuumi that popped on out of them, and now they're marching towards the Nexus turrets. FlyQuest in 30 minutes will put all of that 7-0 this year talk to rest. They will win their first game of the year against Cloud9, and they will start this series off 1-0.
Let it be known, Captain Flowers, nobody beats FlyQuest 8 games in a row. Statement game here from FlyQuest coming out, first game of the series, and yet you see they're all still focused on the fact that it is a best of 5 series. Yes, game plan in game number 1 did work out, but you have to move immediately to what are the changes Cloud9 are going to make and how you're going to deal with them.
Right. FlyQuest showed us that their preparation in game number 1 was exactly what they needed it to be. But preparation only becomes half the battle as the series moves on. The other half, adaptation, is a war between both teams to figure out who's going to get a better read on what happened in that first game. And I don't care if you can barely read at all. I think anybody can read what happened this game was a problem with the jungle. They definitely got to make sure that Blaber's not ended up in a situation like that in Game 2. But once we return, the State Farm Analyst Desk will be ready to break down the FlyQuest win.
Welcome to Assist of the Day, presented by State Farm. Santorin is locked and loaded in this assist as he shows us it's not that easy to take his soul.
It's stolen away by Santorin yet again, and that is such a huge deal. Infernal Soul is on. Zay's got to be careful. Ult's coming across. Shut down, goes through the golden glue. Is this all they needed? FlyQuest have the soul. They have the 2 for 0 when Hootie gets found out. He is on the run to stay alive. He's got the lanyard, he's got the blast, but he's got away.
Welcome back to the LCS and the State Farm Analyst Desk. 1-0 stands the series score, but in surprising fashion, it's FlyQuest who holds the victory over Cloud9 in our first game. An explosive start to the series, to say the least, gents, with all of the level 1 action. And we'll get to that in just a moment, but I do want to tackle the draft because we had spent all this time identifying with the VOD review crumbs, what Cloud9 should come in prepared to do with the evidence from FlyQuest, and this is what we were left with. What is our general takeaways?
FlyQuest hard one.
Yeah, FlyQuest hard one. I will say, I think what C9's draft is and what it's trying to do is largely fine. It's just about how you get there, and it felt like they decided this was their draft no matter what, and we're going to go for it for game 1. And so they have to ban out Caitlyn by themselves on blue side to make the safe Ezreal pick. Otherwise, you'll get countered. Ashe is still going to be good into it, but not quite as dominating. So then you can get the Yuumi Ezreal lane to set up this what eventually will become a big dive comp. This is a great comp for doing that, but you just had to brute force it so hard given the current meta and what it required from your bans.
And the Thresh is really difficult to play against when you are a Nocturne and a Twisted Fate trying to pick individual members. So already when they lock in the early Twisted Fate and then the Thresh gets answered, it should be a big sign that going for the single target pick of Twisted Fate and Nocturne will be a lot tougher to execute. Then you add to the fact that Azir is super mobile in the mid lane, and we saw how useful that mobility was in escaping the Nocturne was, and then Shen to make his life even harder. It just was a really good read from FlyQuest.
And Shen... Oh, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say the problem that I had later was once FlyQuest and 4-5 banned the GP and the Jace, it became super obvious they're just going to take Shen blind pick, right? You're playing against a TF. Shen's a good answer because you can follow him everywhere. It kind of cuts down his gameplay. And Shen usually is hard to dive. I know they got to dive off in the game, but he's just a good answer to the Twisted Fate. So I think as soon as C9 started to see the GP and the Jace ban, they had to switch that LeBlanc ban or switch that Orianna, the order that they're banning, to ban that Shen because it does too much against this TF comp they're trying to play.
And I think ultimately C9 did want the Shen for themselves, and their game plan is either we get the Shen and it's a dive comp to continue empowering Blaber because the Yuumi is picked to empower whatever carry champ Blaber is going to be on. The Shen would double down on that. And if they take the Shen, you counterpick it. And that's what they did. So it did feel like they had a contingency plan for it, but it still felt so good into what their comp's trying to be. The Nocturne turns the lights off on the Shen. I understand that some of these niche counters are going on here, but it still felt like such a big takeaway with that Shen pick, like Probably was saying. And then they banned out a lot of the common counters already, so you're pushed down onto Vladimir, who's not seeing much play right now.
Very clear that one of the goals for Cloud9 is to get that Nocturne to level 6 before they start utilizing the ultimate to play the map. But probably you were the prophet in the pregame here this time around, calling out the level 1s, tracking IgNar. Where is this man going to be? And it spells utter disaster for Cloud9 in game 1 of the series.
Yeah, they needed to pay their subscription fee to get past the Coach Crumbs into Coach Probably because, yeah, FlyQuest was going to do a level 1 for sure. And this first one, I thought Blaber did a good job. He held his point and skilled the W. But after this, C9 did not drop any wards. They did not really expect the overpowered level 1 from Lillia and Ashe invading.
But what is this positioning?
And
he runs forward
this
past.
Is just full disrespect. This is him going I can get this smite and then get one chicken and get level 2 run out. And he just did not get this smite, and it was just really terrible after that.
It's a feeling that junglers are too familiar with, where you just feel upset that you're getting invaded, and you say, screw it, I'll stay here, I'll try to fight my way out of this situation, but Lilia's early is just too strong.
Yeah, it was definitely a salty, I'm going to get this camp, goddammit, but it just sets them so far behind because their whole early game plan is survive till 6, wait till you get your ultimates, then start diving top. He needs to understand that it's not worth fighting that level 1 camp. Set yourself behind, hit a later level 6, it's fine. You just can't get crushed in the early game, which is what this all resulted in.
Yeah, so I would have really liked them placing down those wards level 1. They have a weaker level 1. They also have a losing push mid and a losing push bot. So I think starting on your red side is correct because it's really easy to get invaded. But the way to do that is you need to be able to protect at level 1 so they don't walk in. If they do, you can respond quickly, but they didn't drop wards. I think they just didn't really read that they had so many losing lanes, and they kind of just took this greedy jungle start and then got really punished for it.
Yeah, just for some context, on average, Blaber throughout the summer split hit level 6 at 7 minutes and 2 seconds. In this game, he hit level 6 at 7 minutes 59 seconds, and that is before you even take into account the gold difference, XP difference that is existing between him and his opponent at that time. But I want to reframe our discussion towards Game 2 now because, for Cloud9, Mark, you kind of called it out. It feels like they kind of forced that draft through. But this is also one of those games where with how poorly it went and how quickly it went that direction, teams have a propensity to try and run things back.
I feel like we're at the ocean. There's so much salt in the air. It feels like the salty run back's coming. They've chosen blue side again. And honestly, if I was a coach in this position, you had an early game like that, and you prep this draft, and let's say it's one of your highest winning drafts in your scrims, I would typically be like, yeah, let's run it back, guys. I have confidence in you. That's the worst early game Blaber's going to have all series. I'm not worried. Run it back, execute better, and we'll start diving top correctly before 14 minutes this time. We'll snowball, yada, yada, yada. But just with how difficult it was and how much they had to bend over backwards in the current meta with first pick Ezreal after banning Caitlyn and all these parts to it, I actually don't like the salty run back here.
I don't like the salty run back either, and if there's another thing I'd like to see change from C9 is don't throw bans at Santorin. Those are not effective bans. His champion pool is wide enough, and he's rarely the bottom performer out of FlyQuest. If anything, you would want to throw bans to champions that are going to affect the composition that you're going to play. Things like the Thresh that will definitely hurt your chances of going in the side lanes and picking individual targets off, or maybe the Shen if you think it's going to get stolen away and you don't have an answer to it. So I don't want to see more bans at Santorin. He's clearly capable in whatever champion he's got, and he's bringing out Lillia, the first time we've seen her in playoffs. It was only Dardoch who played it in the regular season as well, so clearly he's got enough champions to play.
Probably, I'd like to upgrade my subscription to the Probably School of Coaching.
What's the premium subscription?
What is your version of Game 2 here?
All right, I'm going to go ahead and say I don't think they have to change too much. I think if they want to do the same pick order, I think they can probably make it work. The biggest change they need to do is third ban that Ashe. That needs to be banned because why are you banning Caitlyn? If you are blue side and you ban Ashe, the red side will ban Caitlyn. In North America, the only counter people are playing to Caitlyn right now is the Ashe. So if you ban it on blue, they will respond with a Caitlyn ban on red. And that first pick Ezreal is now going to have such an easy laning phase. You don't want to play Ezreal into Ashe. You want to play Ezreal into these weaker champions. So you can keep your draft and pick order the same. Just ban Ashe, make them ban the Caitlyn, and if they don't ban Caitlyn, then you just take it and you probably have a better draft. So that's the one change I'd definitely like to see in the first 3.
And it even works with Crumbs' free advice. He was saying, FlyQuest is banning a lot of Caitlyn. So to your point, they should definitely not have
forced
banned
them to
the
ban it.
Oh my goodness, what happens when the two schools of coaching agree?
The world ends.
The world does end. All right, we're going to step away. When we return, it's Game 2 of Cloud9 versus FlyQuest.